This week, we're going to be talking about consequences, what they are, and how you can apply them with your own ADHD child. Hi, I'm Chantal, a licensed occupational therapist who works with the families of neurodiverse children. A consequence in this context is a negative response towards a child's bad behavior with the purpose of preventing the bad behavior from showing up again in the child. Children, especially with ADHD and other neurodiverse conditions, don't know what bad behavior is until someone tells them, and how they're able to establish a pattern of bad behavior is by having consequences attached to these behaviors. So they will most likely repeat a behavior that they haven't established to be a bad behavior that is unwanted. This is why it's important for parents to establish limits and consequences for bad behavior so that children can learn what is acceptable versus what is not. With ADHD children specifically, consequences tend to only work when they are immediate. This means that as soon as a child presents with an unwanted behavior, a parent has to respond immediately. It's important that the consequence be immediate because this is the only way that the child is able to associate that behavior with that negative response and make the conclusion that that is in fact a bad behavior. If you wait until later in the day, the child may have already forgotten. This will make it difficult for their brain to form the association that that act that they demonstrated and your response makes that act a negative behavior. Now, before a consequence can be immediately implemented, you have to give your child at least a warning. It's important that they know what will happen if they continue to demonstrate that behavior. For example, if your child gets frustrated and takes their toy and throws it at you, in that moment you stop and give them an opportunity to correct their behavior first. This means telling them something along the lines of, I know that you're upset and that's okay. However, it's not okay for you to throw your toy at mommy or at anyone else. If you do that again, I am going to put you on timeout. For example, if your child stops throwing their toy at you in that moment, that does not warrant a consequence because they are showing that they have understood what you are saying to them. However, if your ADHD child responds to you by continuing the behavior despite what you have said, this is when it is the appropriate time to put the consequence in place. This will look like saying to them, you haven't listened to what I said to you, so now I am going to put you on timeout, or I am going to take away your favorite toy for the rest of the evening. Another thing that's really important is that when you put a consequence in place, you have to be direct with your child and firm. Ideally, the consequence should be quick and short for maximum impact. If, for example, you have decided that you are going to put your child on timeout, that timeout needs to start immediately after you express the consequence to your child. It also needs to be short. We might assume that putting a child on a longer timeout will be more effective. However, making the consequence quick and short has proven to have the most impact in children. Another example is if you've decided that you are going to take your child's toy overnight. Taking their toy only overnight instead of telling them that they can't have it for the rest of the week is also more effective because they have the night to think about their actions and they can even begin to have hope and motivation to present with better behavior in the next day. However, if you take their toy for the rest of the week, by the time that the week ends, the chances are that they've already forgotten about that toy and they would have found something else to entertain themselves with. It's also likely that they will actually continue to present with the bad behavior because there will be no incentive for them to present with good behavior since their consequence will be so long anyway. Another really key thing is not to make a child feel as though they're going to get rewarded for handling consequences well. Rewarding them for that lets them know that their bad behavior will be rewarded. Lastly, the important thing to remember when enforcing any consequence is that you don't wait for your child to cooperate before you put it in place. They need to understand limits and what happens when those limits are crossed. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one where we discuss rewards.